And of course, my favorite, Erg B and Rakim. Ooh, that black mother. Thinking of a master plan. Ain't nothing but sweat inside my hand. And a fistful of my ass. I don't hear nobody out there. So look, paying club members, we did a poll, and it was between this book we are about to read and this other book. Those of you who are not paying members, you guys don't know. Sorry. But there are privileges to being a paying member, right? I just want to let you all know that the only reason why we're not reading the other book is because it has not arrived yet. So we're going to do this book, and then right after we do this book, we're going to do the next book that the paying members already know about. Okay. So anyway, y'all, with all that being said, My Voice by Angie Martinez. I told you we riding with this 90s stuff. The 90s, 2000, oh, we riding with it for a while. I moved to Brooklyn when I was 8. Could not have come any sooner for my mother, the ever-evolving Shirley, who was steadily moving up the career ladder after getting her start as a secretary at Polygram Records, and then transitioning from the label to a job at the radio station WYNY, and all while doing whatever she could to find the right child care to keep me out of trouble. Angie Martinez, you know they be saying them Latinas be spicy. Okay, well, I mean, I'm a bit spicy myself, you know, and ain't a lick of Latina in me. Okay, you might find some Filipina, but not Latina. She said as a kid, she would do crazy things. When she was 6, she jumped out of a tree and broke her leg. Oh no, that's not my ministry. I don't do things like that. I'm too girly for that. Fuck all that. No, ma'am. That's a tree. Come on, Nay, get up in the tree. No, that's a tree, girl. Why would I go up in there? No, I'll stay right here and wait for you. She said somebody pissed her off that she was banging on some glass French doors because she was so mad at somebody who she was getting into it with that she slit her wrist open. I'm not doing all that. I can't do all that, girl. One thing my grandmothers made me was very vain. And it wasn't even like I was the cutest little girl in the world. I wasn't. To me, I wasn't. When I look back at my pictures, I'd be like, oh, she looks so dopey. But my grandmothers treated me like a doll baby. So yeah, all of this before the age of 8. It's a wonder my poor mother didn't have a heart attack. Brooklyn seemed cool. The proximity of Beach Haven to Coney Island was a plus. There was grass outside our building, which was a big deal, and it was directly across the street from the big tennis bubble that looked like some old monument where people would play tennis indoors. I didn't know anybody who played tennis uptown. Best of all, there were lots of kids in the neighborhood. Shortly after we moved in, my mother and I were in the hallway of the building when we got to talking when another mom and her daughter, who was about my age, a pretty Jamaican girl who was tall and thin and who turned out to be Nikki, my future best friend. It all came from her mom and my mom talking. So they go to the same school. What is it? PS 216. So the mothers is like, oh girl, my daughter go to 216 all the way down there. The other one like, my daughter too, girl. Let me tell you something. Let's have these two girls walk to school together and come home together. That's the way. That's a current parent. Nikki lived in 5H on the 5th floor with her mother and her 2 sisters and brother. I lived in 1H, so we'd constantly be running up and down the stairs to go to each other's apartment. It didn't take long for her family to become my family and my family to become hers. Now, Nikki's family is Jamaican, so I'd be the little Puerto Rican girl at full-on Jamaican parties with their family, eating oxtail and rice and peas. That's how I grew up from then until high school, being raised in part by a Jamaican family. If they were going on a family trip, the first question would be, "Is Angie coming?" And my family embraced Nikki just the same. And so she was eating rice and beans and plantains. For our mothers, both single working moms, having that extra support system had to have been helpful. Yes. On top of that, since both of our mothers worked full time after school on most days, Nikki and I hung out at the neighborhood house, a West Indian woman from Trinidad named Anne Marie, who had 2 daughters of her own. She did have a lot of rules, though. You know, some of them kids don't like them rules. Rules? Ooh, not my favorite. Never a fan of too many rules. It was at Anne Marie's house that I first heard Curtis Blow's basketball. Remember getting such a kick out of it and thinking it was so funny that he would be playing basketball without a basketball. I needed to learn the lyrics immediately, so I got a notebook and listened to it on repeat until I could write down every single word and memorize it. Why did we do that shit? So back in the day, you could actually find lyrics on the album cover or like the insert that you would get if you purchased the tape. If you didn't have it, you really didn't know it. And you didn't want to be caught out there feeling like a fool singing the wrong lyrics because you wanted to be able to sing the songs openly to everybody. Okay, who would listen? Well, I'm Imp the Dimp, the ladies pimp. The women fight for my delight because I'm the grandmaster with the 3 MCs that shock the house for the young ladies. While there were only a few kids on my block as interested in hip-hop as I was, it didn't stop me from venturing out to find it. At night, I would sneak out to make the 10-block walk from Beach Haven to the Coney Island amusement park, where I'd go just to hang out next to the Music Express ride because the music was so dope. Biz Markie, Audio 2, and of course my favorite, Erg B and Rakim. Ooh, that black mother. Thinking of a master plan. Ain't nothing but sweat inside my hand. And a fistful of my ass. When I could convince Nikki to go too, that was even better. She only went once or twice. The walk home, dark, deserted, and under the elevated train tracks was not for her. Not the safest place for 2 girls walking alone late at night, much less for one. But in the end, that didn't deter me. I went alone when I had to. There were a lot of kids like me there just to hear the music. If you were a kid who came from nothing and you listened to the radio or read entertainment magazines or whatever, you didn't relate to any of that. None of it. So hip-hop became a reflection of real life. And over time, even if you didn't come from the hood, or maybe your circumstances were a little better or a little worse, you could still relate because what you heard was honest. In the early 80s, I can remember Grandmaster Flash and Melly Mel, not only with the message, broken glass everywhere, people pissing on the stage, you know you just don't care. Can't take the smell, can't take the noise, got no money to move out, I guess you got no choice. Rats in the front room, roaches in the back, junkies in the alley with a baseball bat. I tried to move away, but I couldn't get far because the man with the tow truck repossessed my car. Don't push me, man. The message, man, the way my stepfather played that shit over and over and over. The message still holds true to this day. This day, the message is timeless. She went on to talk about white lines, and remember when Melly Mel had came out and said, well, while we were singing Don't Do White Lines, I was doing the white lines. White lines blow away. As a 6th grader, I was too young to really understand all of the themes, but the references felt similar. It felt like I was getting the real story of what was going on in the city around me, the unedited version, and I loved it. At this point, in my grandmother's neighborhood, uptown, and most inner city neighborhoods, you could find pieces of linoleum and cardboard on almost every corner where you'd see people breakdancing with big boom boxes blasting beside them. Not in the DC. I know one of y'all in the comments has said, oh, they was doing it downtown. What we saw downtown was Junkyard Band doing their little thing on buckets. Okay? I ain't see no breakdancers. Oh, I hate to say. DC is so funny because certain things that were happening in New York was weird to us. You know, I mean, of course you had some breakdancers, but they were not cool. They were weird. You know, it was certain kind of events that happened that those people who could do it would do it. Of course, we will be enamored with it, but you better not be on no corner in no hood with no cardboard on the floor spinning around on your back. That didn't happen in DC. Oh, I'm sorry. It was weird, but it was beautiful to see. You know, what we had was bands popping up in every neighborhood who were playing music on buckets. That's what we had. So nothing against you breakdancers, because I love to see it. I loved it, you know, but it wasn't something that was openly done in DC. Just like in New York, y'all think we were, because we wear Hugo Boss and we button our shirts up to the top. We have to, because if we don't, it looks slovenly. At this point in my grandmother's neighborhood, uptown, and most inner city neighborhoods, you could find pieces of linoleum or cardboard on almost every corner where you see people breakdancing with big boom boxes beside them. I listened to the radio every weekend to hear cool DJ Red Alert on Kiss FM and Mr. Magic on WBLS, and would tape their shows religiously. I had tons of tapes. We will make our own mixtapes because we could record our favorite songs off the radio. Okay, now, yeah, you would get a little bit of the DJ talking. You had to time it perfectly. Like you would have your finger on the record button perfectly, and as soon as the DJ stopped talking, you would hit record. And when you felt like the song was about to go off because you didn't listen to it on the radio so many times, you would just press stop. Okay, now sometimes them DJs, when you thought they was finished talking, you would hit record and them others would keep talking. You'd be like, shut up, I'm trying to make a mixtape. Out on the fire escape, I'd sit for hours with my cassette player listening to songs like UTFO's Roxanne, Roxanne. Y'all do know that Roxanne Shante follows us over here. You do know that. I mean, we got, y'all, you would be amazed at the celebrities that check us out. Rewinding and playing it over and over to learn all the words. Then a rapper took on the name Roxanne Shante and answered that record with one of her own called Roxanne's Revenge. Ooh. For the next couple of years, whenever I was uptown in Washington Heights at my grandmother's apartment, like in the summers or on weekends, I'd hang out at a park with kids I knew in the neighborhood. We'd stay out late at night smoking weed and listening to music, watching the breakdancing. We'd sneak into the train yard and ride on the trains with big fat magic markers and spray paint. Yes, I was a B-girl and into all things hip-hop, graffiti included. Later, I saw firsthand with friends and family members what crack did to people. Man, that shit was heartbreaking. Man, whenever crackheads would stop by places like the hair salon and try to sell a broken VCR or half a pack of Newports, I'd cringe at how people would laugh at them and be mean. I felt sympathy for their desperation. Maybe they were just like me once, a regular kid who some knucklehead convinced to try something new. The only difference was that I was lucky enough to have dodged the bullet, getting the message just in the nick of time to stay away from something so lethal. For good reason, I can't even put my finger on why, but for the grace of God, I've been protected when needed and have been able to wiggle my way past any type of real danger. Word, I'm still here. And I've been in the middle of a few shootouts. There was a minute there when I was persuaded to sell weed for someone at school. My career as a drug dealer resulted in the sale of exactly one nickel bag. It was not hard, just an easy exchange in the staircase. But I went no further than that. It wasn't like I got caught. The feds weren't exactly after me. It was just one of those moments when you listen to that little voice in your head that says, maybe I'm going a little too far left, and you get your ass back on the right track and go right. My mother gets the credit for encouraging that voice in my head. The sensibility that, yeah, you can play with fire, but once your skin starts shriveling up, maybe you want to pull the fuck out. Retreat, retreat. I'm good for that. Me too, girl. I'm curious and I like to explore and be open-minded, but ultimately I know when I've gone too far. I can only think of one time in my life that I was just out there fucking around with that Texan. By the time I got to high school, Brooklyn's John Dewey High, I was pretty much a hip-hop encyclopedia. I knew every artist, every song title, even all the lyrics. I was like a human Shazam app who could name the tune just by hearing a few beats of the intro's drum track. At age 16, I used to hold court on the stoop in front of my building, me standing up and everyone seated on the steps around me. We played the jukebox game. The way it works was that everyone would take turns just shouting out a topic at me, and then I'd answer by singing or rapping lyrics that went with the subject on theme. Somebody would say something like the jungle, and not missing a beat, I'd go right into Grandmaster Flash's The Message. It's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. This could go on for hours. I was like a one-girl freak show in the neighborhood. Even I was surprised sometimes by how I could remember every lyric and call it up so easily. Music would just stick to me as a part of who I was and how I took in the world. In those days, a 15-year-old like us could get a fake ID on 42nd Street around the corner from Times Square. I'll never forget the feeling of walking into a club for the first time, me and Nikki trying to act all sophisticated, and of course Aunt Melanie just being in her element. Everything about it was exciting. The dark room, the beat hitting hard, the lights pulsing, and there in the center of it all, dressed in black leather pants, was Kiss FM's Chuck Leonard, hosting the show that night. Though I didn't have any inkling of what my future career would be, I remember thinking how cool this guy looked and how dope it would be to talk on the mic and introduce the acts on stage. And in the middle of my excitement, all of a sudden, pop, pop, pop,